A little higher would be great, thanks. Otherwise, I'm going to bend over. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. We did not work this out at the rehearsal today before you all got here. Mike Potter's my name. I grew up just down the street in Willow Glen. I've been at Valley Water about 3 years. I lead our community outreach program, so all our public meetings, all of the newsletters and things that we do related to those projects is my team, and we also do the Speakers Bureau. So this is the third time Matt and I have been at a SIRS meeting in this room. So I think we're cleaning up on the Three Flames. You're batting cleanup today. So we got all the kinks out. You're going to get a better presentation than the other ones. But we're here to talk about the drought and about some of the things that Valley Water is doing and tell you a little bit about what we do. I went to St. Christopher's just down the street. Anybody local from Willow Glen here? And I got my Eagle Scout just across the street at the Lutheran Church there. So I've spent a few meals here in Three Flames. And I'm really excited that you have a hiking group. Separate of my role at Valley Water, I'm on the board of the Open Space Authority, where we buy and protect open space in San Jose, Morgan Hill, Milpitas, Campbell, and Santa Clara. And so we have some great trails as well at the Open Space Authority. One's up at the top of Sierra Road, and then which has a great view. We call it Sierra Vista, and another one off of Palm and Santa Teresa that we call Coyote. What do we call it? It's not Coyote Creek, but it's right there off of there, and we're opening one up on Coyote Ridge. So that's the one we've been focused on, and that will be a spectacular addition. And so we have some hard trails, we got some easy trails. So come check us out, and they're all close by, and that's what I do on my off time. So today we're going to talk about our managing extreme drought and a little bit about Valley Water. So what is Valley Water? We're a government agency. We are your water wholesaler. We bring the water in from the state and federal water projects to this area. We purify some of it. We make sure that we replenish the aquifer, and we protect the environment. So, and we do flood protection as well. So kind of got three things. We do water, we do flood protection, and we protect the environment. So we are been around now for almost 100 years, and we provide the water to the 13 local water retailers that bring it from where we get it to the final mile. And that's so you may have a customer relationship with San Jose Water Company, or depending on where you are, the city of San Jose has a municipal water supplier. If you're in Milpitas, they have a city water department that you would work with. And so there are 13 different ways people get their water. Or if you have a well, we make sure, and we do charge you to keep that aquifer full. We do flood control, so things you may have heard about, the Coyote Creek floods 5 years ago. We're working to fix that so that homes and businesses are protected from that level of flooding in the future. And then the environment is our third focus, and we make sure that as we do this, we are good stewards to the environment. Rather than building just concrete flood control channels, we put trees, and we incorporate things to keep fish and plants and nature and people to give them access. We've got a budget of about $800 million a year. We have about 900 employees. We're out on Blossom Hill and Almaden, and that's Valley Water. This slide that we have up here, so we got the slides in the back, and I'm up here, so I'm not embarrassed if you turn around, and we'll share these with you as well. And this is an eye chart anyway, but it really explains why we exist. When there were hardly anybody living in this valley, you just drill a well and you got all the water you need and then some. It's a tremendous aquifer that nobody really tapped for thousands of years. Everybody planted orchards because everything grows here. And so they started needing more water. And so they dug deeper wells, they pumped more, and they started to not have as much, the water was deeper and deeper underground. So what happens when you over pump is the land can compact. It's called subsidence. And in some parts of our area, in Alviso and in downtown, areas have sunk 13 feet over the years. So our forefathers, the sirs from before, created an agency to address subsidence and the groundwater recharge. Full focus of they built some reservoirs to capture water when we have it. On this chart, it shows as the population grows and the demand for water increases, people start pumping harder again. So we find new ways to get water. Again, we built those reservoirs, some of them Anderson and the other ones around here, there's 10, and that still wasn't enough. So we joined the State Water Project in 1960 and imported water, and we joined the federal Central Valley Project shortly thereafter. So we get about half our water now from outside the area. It's called imported water. And you see the population keeps growing, but that jagged line, that's our groundwater levels, and you can see we're doing a pretty good job. The groundwater is pretty close. We have a great water table here. When they say we have a high water table, part of the reason we don't have a lot of basements, because the water is pretty close to the surface. Let's go to the next slide. So this talks about a little bit where we get our water. Again, 30% is local. We have groundwater and reservoirs, and we manage that. When we get water in from our reservoirs, we release it into the creeks. We time that to replenish the aquifer. Some parts of our county, Gilroy, Morgan Hill, anybody from South County, you get all your water from groundwater. So it really is important that we manage that and keep track of it and protect it. About 50% is imported. 10% of our county gets its water from Hetch Hetchy, which is San Francisco runs that pretty much, and there's a pipeline kind of like along Tasman. I used to work at Cisco, and actually runs under the parking lot of the headquarters building. There's a 4-foot pipeline that was on the old farm at Agnew's, and that's why it was built there, because it was just the farm at Agnew's. And so the state put that pipeline there, and then San Jose allowed Cisco to come in, and so they put a parking lot. You can't put a building on top of a pipeline. So anyway, that Hetch Hetchy system can only sell water to nonprofit or government water retailers. So that is why the city of San Jose has, and that's part of that's related to the way they got the land and the water. But so Palo Alto has its own municipal utility for water, and so they get their water from Hetch Hetchy. And so does Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, and in San Jose, parts of San Jose are also run by a municipal water supplier. I would just say, is anyone here from San Jose Water? You work for San Jose Water? No. Okay. Well, so the cost of water from the city of San Jose's water utility is probably 25% less than the cost of the water from the for-profit company that serves most of the other part of the city. So that's probably not in my talking point, so I should probably stop right there. But they're a heck of a stock, and it's gone from used to be about $12 a share, now it's over 70. So what do I know? And I don't own any of it. So, but anyway, the Hetch Hetchy can only sell to a nonprofit or government water retailer. So Milpitas, North San Jose, all of the high-tech area, they get their water from the city of San Jose's municipal water utility. And then about 5% we get from recycled water. We have a recycling purification center in North San Jose and Alviso. They take the water from the purple pipe and they purify it. And that's about 5% of our water supply. We take that purified water. We can't use it for drinking. It's not legal. We're not proposing that. But we use it for, we blend our purified water with the purple pipe water so that it's not as salty, not as many minerals. It goes out to a lot of the San Jose parks. The Calpine power plant uses 1 million gallons a day. As a part of their permit, they brought the purple pipe all the way out to South San Jose, Coyote Valley. So that was a huge benefit because it's really expensive to dig up streets and put pipelines in. So a lot of parks in between now can use that water. And so that's about 5% of our water supply. We're proposing to, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, add another plant that will bring that number to 10%. And then conservation is 15%. We encourage people to take out their lawns and to reduce the amount of water they use. And we'll actually even talk about it a little bit later, some programs will help pay for that. So that's where we get our water, about half of it from outside the county. Let's go to the next slide, Matt. This is where we use it. This used to be bigger, sorry. About 55% of the water gets used by residential, about 30% by businesses. Ag, we still have agriculture in this county. About 8% of our water gets used by agriculture, mostly in South County, although there's some wineries in Cupertino. And of the water that's used residentially, about half gets used inside the house, about half gets used outside the house. Landscape, pardon? So when you look at how do we shrink any of those pieces of the pie to conserve, you know, you can take a shorter shower, make sure you don't run the water while you brush your teeth. All of those things are important and they all add up. Make sure you don't have any leaks. If you have a low flow toilet, that uses less water. But 27.5% of all our water in this county gets used for landscape. So we're a Mediterranean climate. This is like Greece. Do you see lush lawns in Greece? Not very many. So we import water from the Sierras all the way here, hundreds of miles, do all these things. We clean it, purify it, and then we put it on the grass that, and if it's a football field or a park or something that people use, that's great. But if it's the only time somebody walks on that lawn is when they mow it, what are we doing? And so we have programs to help reduce that or shrink the size, and we'll help plant plants that use less water, that are native, or that are just very drought tolerant. And so we've got lists of those and landscapers that help with all of that. And so we'll cover a little bit of that further down. Let's go to the next slide, Matt. This is our system. We've got 10 reservoirs, 3 pump stations, 42 miles of pipelines, 3 water treatment plants, a water purification center, and almost 400 acres of percolation ponds. So those little perk ponds you see in Campbell are all over. And you believe it or not, there's some of them right in the middle of industrial areas. There's a perk pond there, and we just pump that water in, and it goes right in. And so that's what we do. It's about a $7 billion system. A lot of it was built 50, 60 years ago, and we're spending a lot of time and energy keeping it going and rebuilding it. The pipelines have a lifespan, and a lot of those pipelines are at it. So they have some really cool processes by how they update and modernize those, so we don't have to dig them up. This is the reason we're here. This next slide, we're still in a drought. I know we had a very wet January. Spent New Year's Eve in an emergency center, operations center, making sure that people had sandbags. Valley Water built over 140,000 sandbags in the month of January. So it was a very hectic and busy time. I think cities can also build sandbags, but that would not be collaborative or supportive. But we built them and gave them to everybody. But this is the state, and last year it was red. The whole thing was red. So we're not in the white. We're not out of the woods. If you have been out of work for a year and you get a job, doesn't mean you're rich again. It just means you're finally getting some pay. So we just had a good month, but we had years of not very many good months to deal with. So we are still encouraging people to conserve, and we're still counting on people to conserve, actually, because we don't know if it's going to rain in the spring. Let's go to the next slide. This makes our situation even more complicated as a water agency. Anderson Dam is our largest reservoir. Anderson Reservoir is our largest. You could put all 10 of the other reservoirs inside that one. And it was built in 1950, over a couple of years, and it was built to the standards that they had then, but there's an earthquake fault right nearby, and they've tested the soils. And if it were full and there was a certain sized earthquake, it could slump. And if it's full and it slumps, it could fail. If it fails while it's full of water, you're talking 25 feet in Morgan Hill in 8 minutes. And even more, 8 feet of water coming down to downtown San Jose in 2 hours. There's so much water at that point, it actually goes to the Pajaro and out to the ocean. So the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which regulates this dam, declared it unsafe and ordered it drained. We were able to recapture a lot of that. We ran it through the perk ponds and through the creeks as best we could to capture as much of that water. But the outlet's been open for a couple years now. And when it was built, it has a little tiny outlet. And as we work to rebuild it, because we're now rebuilding it, we're building a giant tunnel, a 20-foot concrete tunnel, kind of along the left side and in. so that when we need to release water, we can do so quickly. Part of the challenge for the Coyote Creek flooding was it rained so hard and so focused on this watershed that it was full and spilling over the spillway, even though the outlet had been open for a month and a half beforehand. So it has a tiny outlet. So the new one will be able to release 5 to 8 times more water, which creates other problems. That means we could be creating flood-like scenarios frequently downstream. So we're doing a bunch of things while we're building the new tunnel to protect places, and even that includes even buying some people's houses that are that should not have been built in the flood zone, but are. We're either putting a wall in front of them or buying, and it will tear some of them down. And putting new walls at some of the parks. Yes. They're not going to be doing that, but they will be able to fill it completely. So, and for many years, as soon as we realized, and again, at Valley Water 3 years, as soon as they realized there were some issues, they have kept it at 65%. So, but once it is rebuilt and operational, it'll be full, and that's 90,000 acre feet capacity. Great question. It's a 10-year process. And the team that is working on that, there were different than in 1950. There are 13 regulatory and environmental organizations that have to issue a permit for this project. Some of those agencies have missions that are not, that don't match, right? You must protect the fish that live below this dam at all costs. And then the other people are saying, this is a safety hazard, drain it right now. I don't care if the fish die, right? Their missions don't come. So that's not my job, thankfully, but the people that are, it's a very hard, complicated job. We are still navigating through it, and we're working. Congresswoman Lofgren has been our champion for this project. She's a tough cookie. You don't want to be on the wrong side of her. How's that for a non-political answer? You don't want to be on the wrong side because she's tough. And so she is telling people that my constituents in Morgan Hill will be dead if this thing collapses in an earthquake when it's full. So what are you doing about it? And so we have these quarterly meetings where sometimes the week before that meeting is when the most stuff gets done, because they don't want to go to that meeting and say, we're not sure we're there yet. Like, these meetings go very well. And they bring all the county folks, and it's been in the city of Morgan Hill, so it's been a very collaborative. We call them tiger teams, and you don't want to be the meal at a tiger with a tiger. So that's all I should say about that. But the project will take 10 years. The first thing we got to do is for 2 years build that tunnel, 2.5 years. And then it's not just building a new dam. We have to take down the old one safely and then build it back up without leaving the canyon open, so that if you get a big storm when it's down, we're going to wash out everything. So it's a pretty tight corner. And in the meantime, a local city permitted some really beautiful homes right at the base of that. We didn't include it. So you may, what was real estate like about 4 years ago? Pretty good time to be selling houses. These are $2.5 million homes, and there's 120 of them right at the base. So we start hey, we're going to cut down a bunch of trees to get ready for this big tunnel project. They were still moving, like literally they weren't even on the mailing list yet, because they were still moving people in. So we're going door to door, our first meeting for this project. And so and I was so grateful. We did comment on the EIR for those homes that this is going to be a big project. So it was in their disclosure. Hopefully they read their disclosures. I'm sure all of you read those 50 pages you get when you sign. So in one of those, it said this is going to be a 10-year long project. So they're aware, but they've been good neighbors, yes.
What are the 10-year spans?
We just started last year, year and a half ago. So, July 7th, last summer, was our groundbreaking event. The contractor's been on board shortly after that. And so they've been, before you build a giant tunnel, you got to make sure they got to take the dirt out. So we've got some great time-lapse pictures of this project on our website. And the scale is hard to believe. There's a 3-lane road across the top of that dam. So from here, it looks like small. It's 200-something feet tall. So it's not small. It's $1 billion+ project. You had a question over here, sir, and I didn't call on you yet. Sorry. The reason it's going to take 10 years is before you can do the other stuff, you have to put in a new tunnel so that as the water comes in, you can release it more quickly. And that's a 2.5, 3-year project to do the tunnel. And then you got to take down the dam before you build it back up. And actually, we don't have all the permits for the dam part yet. We're still working on that. But
Have you looked at the boring company?
no. It's a very precise, right now they're scooping into the thing. It's not because you have to build a structure around it as you go in. So they're doing about 10 feet a day. They're working 24/7. But in order to prepare for that, the things you don't think about, where the future outlet's going to go is going to be a really big, it's 20 feet. There's a lot of pressure on a outlet. So there's like a 40-foot hole below it that has to be filled in with concrete-like substance. So 300-400 trucks coming through at a time to pour in a 24-hour period. Then they have to let it cure. Then a couple days later, another 300-400 trucks loads of this stuff. They did that 4 times. So just the scale of this, when you start thinking 300 dump trucks of concrete to create the base for the outlet structure. So that's a lot. And sure. How many? We did not need to do that, but because we've got cement companies and we buy it from them. But we did. They did work a second whole shift just to supply us on those 3 times. So we did it overnight. And it is a when they built Hoover Dam, they did not have OSHA. There were no. I mean, hundreds of people died during the construction of Hoover Dam. We don't do it like that now. So and thank God we don't do it like that. But we are moving forward in this tunnel. At some point, they're going to hit rock. They're going to have to blast, but it's pretty soft, softer than we thought so far. And there's going to be a tunnel, and then there's a shaft coming down. But it's about 1,800 feet, so 10 feet a day, and that's because you got to reinforce it with steel, and then that has to be welded, and then you move forward. You scoop more, you pull it out, you do 10 feet. That base is already cured, so yeah. But it's 30 feet and it's huge. So, but that's why it's taken 10 years. You've got to carefully tear it down and build it back up. And so if it's a wide open channel, there's also Coyote Reservoir feeds into this reservoir behind it. So we're going to eventually be bypassing with a ton of pipe or something to bypass this while it's open so that it flows out. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. And at the same time, the fish guys are saying you got to keep the steelhead alive. So when it's 110 degrees here in August, there's no water coming out of this. And so we've relocated a lot of fish. Anyway, that's the Anderson challenge. Yes. It's already drained. I mean, it's full right now because it rained. So it's going to be, the outlet's wide open from this last rains. It was wide open, nothing coming out. With all these rains, it has 60 days of flow to be back to, they call it dead pool. But the outlet's been open the whole time. The fish inside it, the environmental agencies don't care about the fish in the lake. It's the fish in the creek that are the wild steelhead, and they used to just keep swimming up the creek to wherever it starts, but we built a giant reservoir there, so that's their mission. I don't want to make light of it. That is their mission, to protect it from human construction. So we have to mitigate it somehow. So great question. There are headwaters to the Coyote Creek, and Coyote Reservoir is up behind it. So that watershed all falls into here. We also have a huge pump plant at the base. So that's where we store our water that we get from the other parts of the state. So our 50% of imported water, we put it here usually. We can't do that for 9 more years. That's where the federal water gets stored. And so we have a pump, we have an outlet. And in here, I'll show you a picture of our outlet during a drought. We have a straw that goes into San Luis Reservoir, and we pump it through a bunch of pipelines to this location. And when it's dry, our outlet is just sitting in mud. Past Casa de Fruto, the big one, the giant one. No, that's a federal water. Like John Kennedy did the dedication there. That's a huge federal. That's where all the water that goes to LA stays before they pump it to LA. among other places. So yes, that's okay. It's an earthen dam, and it was built to code in 1950. Just an earthen dam. It's going to be it's going to have more consistent soil, but it's going to be an earthen dam. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. You want to do that before they start them open, right? No. No, I haven't been down there for that. No. No. Right. And some of the ones coming from Hetch Hetchy go through granite caves that are, giant. So it's an engineering masterpiece. Our stuff, we're just going through dirt, and there'll be some rocks. There will be blasting, we believe, at some point, but it's going to be 800 feet into the thing. Nobody's going to even hear it, is what I've been told. I don't know. But we aren't going to do it in the middle of the night. That's for sure. So this is the Anderson Dam, and it's the linchpin of our local water system. It's where we store imported water. It's where there's water skiing and all that stuff on it. But right now it's not in use. So, but even with, like I said, with this rain we had, 60 days for it to drain out. So that's how small that outlet is with just that series of storms. Yes. We run it through, we do have pumps, and we do use that for some of our pumping. We have a spreader along the creeks that slows the flow at the Coyote Creek Perk Dam that allows it to do recharge, where in fact, because the new outlet is going to let so much more water out, we're putting in a different kind of a perk dam. It was metal, and in order to put it up or take it down, it takes 2 weeks. There's big giant metal plates that go across. So we're getting one that inflates. So you can hit a button, and like in 15 minutes, it'll pop up, hold the water back so it can percolate. And if it's going to be a big storm, you flatten it so it doesn't slow down the water. But that's, okay. This is a good time for that position. It's going to do real well. Well, let me go to the next. We've got, this is one of the challenges here. During a shortage, you all know supply and demand. This is the spot price for water during the drought. We're just, if you're trying to find water to buy from a farmer in the Central Valley that's not using it all, you're going to pay $1,200 on the open market. During wet times before the drought, it was about $200 an acre foot. It flows from north to south. That's the aqueducts. So if someone has the water down, in Bakersfield, we can't pump it upstream. So we've got to find somebody with northern water to switch with them. And so we have a couple people at Valley Water that know all these people who have water available, and we usually pay way better than or at least we pay better than the spot price. But and we have some existing relationships. Some of our deals were so creative and quick, and we were nimble, that the governor came in and canceled our contract because we were getting water that he was going to use for somebody else. And then they shifted and got it back. But it was a little bit of we got to cancel all contracts while this emergency is going on. But our team was there first. But that's supply and demand. And so 1,200 acre foot. An acre foot is about 325,000 gallons. So they measure it by acre feet. So 1,000 acre feet is 1,000 times 325,000. So it's a lot of water. So some of these people with water rights that are senior to ours, we just drill a well and you have water. So we didn't have water rights going back to the gold rush, because why would you need to do that? Or they bought somebody that had it, but yeah. So the next slide talks a little bit about the challenge here. Our climate is changing, it's changing, and the wets are wetter, the dries are drier. We're experiencing bigger swings and more intense storms. Our snowpack, which used to last on a good year, is going to last till July and slowly melts and fills up our reservoirs. It's the way the system was designed. It was designed when we had 10 million people. We got 40 million people here now. So there's a lot of stress on the system, but when it gets really hot in May, it's going to melt all the snow early, and it's harder for it to recapture. We had some good snow last year, and it melted quickly, and it soaked into the ground because it was the effect of the drought. So we didn't get the runoff that we hoped for. Let's go to the next slide. This is something we're hoping to do locally to help resolve some of this. We have one advanced treatment plant right now in Alviso. Takes the purple pipe water, runs it through microfiltration, reverse osmosis. I'm trying to read all those. I should know these by now. UV light and advanced disinfection. It's more than a Brita. This is an entire building that pumps all this water, purifies it to a distilled water standard. So, and we blend that with the purple pipe water so that it doesn't have as much salt and minerals in it, which, you know, you've seen some of these parks that have, like, all the redwood trees seem to be dying, even though the grass, everything's green. So they're watering it with the purple pipe water, and the trees don't like that much mineral and salt. So by us blending it, it allows them to survive. In other parts of the world, they would take that water and hook it up to your faucet. It would be direct potable reuse. We don't allow that. It's not legal in California. We're not saying we're going to do that. We have a proposal to build a second plant and pipe that water to the Campbell Perk ponds and use that pipeline to put essentially distilled water, this purified water, into the perk ponds so that it can then float down, and in 15 years when the aquifer, when it gets down to where the well is, that would be back in the well. So and we wouldn't have to use any water from Lexington or other creeks to replenish our, or imported water to replenish our aquifer there. It is not. It's a proposal. We're still in the environmental impact study. This is a big and expensive plant. We're doing a public-private partnership is what we're looking at. So there'll be a private company building it and operating it in partnership with us. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, but we've got a site either in San Jose or in Palo Alto, the two that we're studying. But believe it or not, we have to work out a purchase agreement for the wastewater from the two sewage plants. They're going to sell some of the water. We don't have the right to that water, so they're going to sell it to us. Absolutely does. It's largely automated, but it's by the way, it's a free public tour that we offer. I would encourage you all to do a field trip, and you can sign up at Pure Water 4U, Pure Water number 4U, the letter U.org, and you could go out on a tour. We didn't have public tours during the pandemic because in order to operate one of these plants, you got to have, like, there's only a few people with all of those certifications, and we protect them we were protecting them not just from you. I couldn't go there either, but we're allowed to do public tours now. There's a couple people out there, and so we don't have a whole lot of people with those certifications. So we guard them pretty carefully when it comes to public access. It's at Office Anchor, correct? And so we're studying to build one in there. San Jose was a little more complicated to deal with. Palo Alto, we had an agreement to purchase, and there's a small 2-acre location near their plant that we could do it. Then we'd have to dig a pipeline to the perk ponds from either location. That's an expensive proposition. Yes. Number 4, and then the letter U.org. Sure. Well, they treat it to the standard they're required to do, and then it goes out to the bay. Yeah, well, we're not paying a huge amount, but we do have to have a purchase agreement with them. And so the original plant is sort of proof of concept, this one that is out there now, and it works. And we put 5 million gallons back into the purple pipe every day. And so the next one would be, hopefully equal in size. But there's only 4 sewage plants, and it's not just sewage, it's the dishwasher, wash machine, sink water, all that stuff. It's great. Yeah. And so that, it's a lot easier to clean that than salt water, and which will cover some of that. But this is the plant we're looking at. This is an expensive proposal, hundreds of millions of dollars. And then a pipeline is hundreds of millions of dollars as well. Yes.
You know, Great Oaks Water,
Yes.
I believe some of their water, Great Oaks.
I don't think they have yet. I haven't heard that. Great Oaks is a privately owned small water company in South San Jose. Not yet. No, I think. But they're both, I would say this, they're both investor owned. One is owned by a family and the other is owned by shareholders.
My question though is, Great Oaks is really,
It's all served by groundwater, yes.
now, some of their water,
I get water from San Jose Water and it's very where it comes from. Drink, just it may clog your coffee maker faster than almost anywhere else on the planet. Yes. The one that I'm talking, the purification plant is owned by Valley Water. We have a partnership agreement with the city of San Jose. It was on their land. That's a really good tour. And at some point you're going to get, you know, at the end you get a chance to taste the water and it doesn't taste like anything. It just tastes like distilled water.
one of the things that we looking to do is get these day trips coming up.
There you go.
Now, as the COVID and everything has been lifted, we are going to be reinstating more of our day trips. So we will contact.
It's not much of a hike, but there is some walking and there's definitely no wine tasting allowed.
Bring your own.
So bring your own. But there's plenty of water tasting, but no wine. And so the question that we often get, so we put it in the slide, is if you can purify water from a sewage plant, why can't you just get some salt water and purify it? And the answer is we absolutely could. It's a little trickier here. You'd have to pump it from the ocean to us, and that's not cheap or easy. But you could definitely drill a hole. So I guess you could drill a hole through the mountains there. But the bay is pretty shallow, and you know the average depth of San Francisco Bay is 3 feet down at our end, and so there's not actually as much water as you would think. And if you thought it's complicated to rebuild a reservoir or a dam that would kill people if it fails to get the permits, think about I want to pump water from the bay and use it to purify for drinking. So that I don't know that we could get a permit to do that. We are Valley Water, and so it is technically possible. It'd be pretty expensive. We are studying it. We're also helping a project in Antioch that is on a deeper part of the bay, and we would be able to pump that water around through Los Vaqueros or some way to get our share of that water. We're part of that proposal, but at this time it is pretty prohibitive to do desalination in our county. How much? The question is how much percent of our water goes out to the ocean? When it's a storm and it's in a creek, that water isn't, you know, especially these days, is not that clean. So it would be hard to divert. I'm assuming you're asking how could we divert some of that water. We do capture it in our dams before it gets into the creeks or before it gets into the, you know, it's in the creeks behind the dam. But to try to do something with the water as it's running through Coyote Creek or Guadalupe River through downtown would be pretty tough. And it's not that there's trees and mud and whatever was on the shore of the creek and whatever's on the street, the storm drains flow into those creeks. So especially the first rain, when it's been 6 months of dry, the oil and the grit and all that stuff that's on the road ends up in that creek. So we actually, and we don't deal with the storm sewers. That's the city of San Jose or the city in this county. And so they charge each house about $500, $600 a year for storm sewer. So we're encouraging them to put in some biofilters, especially on new projects, some ways to filter that water off the streets so that it catches some of the gunk before it goes in. Yes. Yeah.
So we've been talking for years about there's a drought in California and we started talking about desalination employment. And then we have a good river storm and that it goes away.
ever going to start pumping it?
Well, there are places that they have no choice. So down in San Diego, and they're building desalination plants. There are a lot of tricky.
If we can hold some of the questions, because we want to get through all of his speech before
Okay.
the end. Then at the end, we'll have a chance to ask you more questions.
Well, so the question, though, I'll go real quick. There are places that are doing it. It's really expensive. If you're in Israel, you're going to have desalinated water. If you're in the Middle East, if you're on the space station, they use purification like we had. And so, but the price I showed you about the supply and demand, when it rains, it's $200 an acre foot. Desal is about $3,000 an acre foot. So, and the energy costs too. So part of that's energy. So where's the power plant going to go? Because otherwise they're going to be taking your energy. So the trick here, this is the difference in the pure total dissolved solids. The purple one in the middle, that's the purple pipe water. That's about 500 total dissolved solids per milligram. Ocean water is 35,000. So we're doing the lower hanging fruit, and then the distilled, essentially the purified water is at 40. Tap water is about 250. So the purple water is like 98% clean, and we take it to the next level with the purification center. So it just takes a lot to get, and then you've got a whole bunch of salt that it's not like you can just go dump it somewhere. You've got to figure out what to do with it. And some of the places just go dump it in the ocean, and eventually you're going to be a problem. But we're talking like mountains of salt, so or not really salt, but brine, and so that's not just dry salt. And then the next one talks about the energy use. You can just see the one on the right is the desalination, and the purified water is close to the middle, or is at the other end. So a lot difference on energy. Let's go to the next. This is some of the stuff you can do. The drought is real. We have a plan. We need people to water, not during the day. 2 days a week is still in effect. Shouldn't be any when it's raining like when it's been raining like in January. So, but we've seen some really good savings during this rainstorm. People turned off the sprinklers, which was really good for the most part. But we can do better, and we got to kind of make saving water a part of our daily life. So let's go to the next. This is our, water conservation is a way of life. We have gray water programs. I have my wash machine connected to a hose. It drains out into my backyard on the grass. I have a little patch of grass, but could easily, I just put the hose on whatever bush needs water. And so we've really been able to not use my backyard sprinklers on the lawn. I don't do it. So it died. I had a couple patches of green. Depending on if my son's visiting, we use more laundry. But we have programs to help rainwater capture, like barrels. Rain barrel is not a new invention. You put it under the drain and you capture the water. We got it now where they're screened so you won't get mosquitoes, and they're like Legos. You put them on the side of your house. So that's something I think every engineer would like, if you've got a big roof, especially. And then we have grants to reduce, so that you can see the first picture up there is a lawn. Second one is what it looks like after they took out the lawn and put in different plants. It's just different. If you're playing soccer around with your kid every day, you want to keep your grass, that's great. Maybe you don't need a quarter acre, right? And so I think as we move forward, it's just going to get more and more expensive to keep a lawn. And our climate is changing, and it's just it's the easiest way to save a lot of water, to stop having grass. Grass is native to like England and Ireland, where it rains every day. So they don't have sprinklers in a lot of parts of the country. We're using imported water to water our lawn. So we call it productive turf or non-productive turf. If the only time someone steps on it, I think I said this, is when they mow it, then it's probably not doing much. Looks nice, but and so if you want to save, there's a shopping cart here. You can click on that. We've got some of the supplies over here. We have freebies for you. Water nozzles, toilet flappers, different things that you can order that help you conserve water. If you have a leak, we'll come out and do an inspection and help you figure out where the leak is, or if there is a leak. So we're really doing a lot, and we have grants for apartments. Like maybe everybody's on a 1 meter for the whole 8-plex. It's kind of hard to give people an incentive to save because they think their neighbors are in the shower all day, so they don't save. So if they have their own meter, then there's like some mobile home parks, could be 300 units there, but there's 1 meter. So it's really hard. So it's expensive to put in that many meters, but we have grants that will at least help a little bit. But yeah, it's a good question. Some parts of the state don't have any meters at all. They do now. There was a law change that requires everyone to have a meter. They used to pay one price no matter how much they used, and that's gone away. Yeah. Got it. Absolutely the right thing to do. What he said is, if you couldn't hear him, is he's got an engineering solution to this. Is he's got a sensor on his sprinkler timer that connects to let you know if the weather's right, if it needs water or not. And we actually have grants for sprinklers, timers like that will help. I mean, we don't pay for it all, but it offsets the cost. And there's a lot of technology. There's a device you can connect to your water meter that is connected to an app that will alert you if there's a leak. Especially if you're out of town and all of a sudden your water dial starts spinning, something's going on. So they've got a whole list of cases where people have been alerted by this app on their phone, and they call somebody, they go turn off the water because there's a leak in the basement or a pipe burst. Absolutely. Absolutely. So these are some of the things you can get for free, and we have some on the table here, but you can check those out. The next slide talks about, sometimes there's a neighbor that maybe is a little stubborn and says, I can water every day if I want to. This is America and I'm paying my bill, I'll just pay more. Well, we passed an ordinance that says 2 days is the most you're supposed to water. So you may not want to go talk to that neighbor. I'm not saying any of you would fit that character, but we'll go out and talk to them and educate them and say, hey, look, the rules are you're supposed to water twice a week. Or maybe at 3 in the morning, their sprinklers go off. They don't know there's a broken sprinkler head because it dries up by the time they come out, but you saw it. So we'll go out and help people. We'll tell them, hey, this needs to be fixed or that. We technically have the ability to fine, which is the first time Valley Water's ever had that. We haven't fined anybody. We've done a second notice to a couple people, but our goal is to educate and have folks comply. So that's where we're at. But you can call this number or send them an email, and they'll go talk to them. Or we'll also, if there's a blockage in a creek or somebody's dumping in the creek, you can call that same number that's up there and let us know. Be amazed at what people put in creeks. And then this next one, this is about our grant program. We have the voters passed a ballot measure that provides some funding to Valley Water. As a part of that, we do a grant program to a number of folks to promote water conservation, help pollution prevention. We put a lot of drinking fountains with the water bottle filling thing on it at schools and different public places. So that's what that funds, and we'd like to talk about that. The next one is about folks that were impacted during the economic challenge during the pandemic. We put some money with Sacred Heart Community Services, a local group, to help people that are down on their luck to pay their water bills, because you got to have water. And so we want to get them to be able to have water. This next one is that's the intake at San Luis Reservoir during a drought. So that big box is where the water flows in, and there's a pipe under it that comes to us. You're not able to pump anything when it goes down, and it's a huge reservoir, but it's pretty shallow. So that's a challenge that we have. San Luis Reservoir, right there, on the other side of Los Banos, on the way to Los Banos. So every gallon you save is a gallon we don't have to pump from over there, and so we just like to put that picture up and remind folks. The next slide has a bunch of the different numbers you can call again if there's a leak, or you want a water waste hotline, or want to learn more or report a blockage on the creek. And that watersavings.org has a lot of good information on it, and some ways you can save and how you can get paid to take out your lawn. I'm happy to answer any questions. Pardon? Don't touch your putting green. Well, that's productive turf. That's productive turf.
Will be available on the Grant 54 website, so as soon as people taking pictures of it, that's fine. But you can get them within the week, probably 7 days from now. They will be posted up there. So you can get all of this information from our website. Both the Grant 62 and 54, you can use our website to do that.
Great, happy to answer any other questions. Yes.
If, ignorant, I've never heard of the first time. And secondly, person down, I believe every dam.
Even before the 60s, it was you just pile up dirt and block the creek. But there are engineering, well, not originally no, but yes, they've learned a lot. There was a big dam failure down in Southern California in the teens. Because in the during World War I, it was catastrophe. So they've increased the standards. But after the Oroville issue with their spillway, there are new standards as well. That's another thing that delayed our project was the change in law about the spillway. So we had to make sure the spillway we had, and they hadn't developed the rules. So you can't design your project to the new standard until the new standard is put forward. And the purple pipe is water. You're not supposed to just non-potable. It's cleaned, 98% clean from the sewage treatment plant, and they use it for grass, parks, golf courses, and then they use it at the cooling tower at the Calpine power plant. It doesn't go to homes. What you will see though is a lot of the offices in North San Jose use that water for their landscape. So if you're building new, and I think another place that's doing it is the new Apple campus, where they have a pretty robust budget for things, especially groovy things. So they have double plumbing in their building. So their toilets use recycled water to flush rather than clean water or potable water. So, but it's hard to retrofit. When you're building the first time, you can double plumb it. Oh, great. Yep. Well, that's an awfully long pipe. that might be prohibitive. We'd have to put it in Santa Cruz. Okay, so I want you to go to Santa Cruz City Council meeting before you say that. I think they are. It's a massive long-term project to do one of those, and if you do it, you got to do it to a certain scale. But you're not wrong. We may have to do that. I think right now we're working on the purification because we've got this water's just going to the bay, and we're going to do that. That's $700 million to build that and to put the pipes in. So we're a pretty big place, so we can swing that. But it's going to be funded partly through water rates and through grants that we can get. And so I hear what you're saying, but we're studying it, and we're doing it in Antioch, and we're looking at it, especially where the bay is deep enough, and you can do it there, and there's an industrial site for it. I don't know where in Santa Cruz you could do that. The distribution is tricky, but I get what you're saying. It's like with solar, you can pay more for green energy. You're saying you pay more for green energy. You pay more for purified water. I get it. I think it's outside the box thinking. I like it. We're the wholesaler, so our job is to provide the wholesale. That's the retailer is your customer. So you're in a different dynamic there, but I get what you're saying. Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, is there any kind of a program or plan where somebody can come out and talk to us about if we take that back lawn out, how do we keep our...
Well, that is a great question, and remember the last drought is brown is the new green. And so people liked it. We had the signs up everywhere. The problem was we had trees dying everywhere. So there was a huge impact to the tree canopy. So we didn't do that same campaign. In fact, my neighbor and I have a park strip that has a tree that died because neither one of us watered it. And so I think you could still water your trees without having it go on the grass. But you would want to get like an arborist to help. How can we water these trees because they don't need to be watered through a lawn, but there's probably you need to create a basin. It probably wouldn't be the same experience. But we do think we did in this campaign, some of our drought messaging was really, save water, but don't forget to water your trees. So like the wash machine water could go to the tree, like you could put a soaker hose and engineer that, dig a trench with the perforated pipe that just is fed by the thing. But yeah, you probably not too much bleach. Yeah, you're right. You want to use detergent. Yep. So on our website, the pure water or the watersavings.org, we do grants and we have contractors that do the gray water and the drought smart watering as well, irrigation. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's really, we do these grants to take out your lawn. That first year, we're putting in new plants, or you're putting in new plants. They actually take water to make sure they thrive. So it's not 100% savings right off the bat. I may have spent a lot of time going out door to door this past year, and I was astonished at how many dead lawns there were, and people really doing the thing they can do to save water, and so we still would help them with a grant to do some different kind, but they would need some irrigation, right? You just can't not have sprinklers because it doesn't rain for months and months. Yes. Saltwater evaporation, like something out over the ocean. We don't have any area of our county over the ocean, so we wouldn't. I haven't heard of that, but that's absolutely. There are times where Anderson Dam loses during a non-drought. Anderson loses more water due to evaporation than we do out the bottom. So they're looking at on some of these canals, these aqueducts where they transport the water. They're doing a thing with the solar panels above it to shield the water from the sun, but also it's really sunny, and gather electricity. So they're testing that. We'll see how long they last and if they get walked off with, but they're doing it. I mean, it's out in the middle of nowhere, right? It's you see it when you drive to LA, but yeah, you could, yeah.
Question, a lot of what you're doing sounds to me like it's help the local situation and all that. My question is, how can we influence the state to help do more? Because, as you said, when the reservoirs were all put in, we had 10 million. Now we've got over 40 million.
Right.
We're losing quite a bit lately, but hopefully not too many.
We're still pretty close to 40 million.
Yeah. What does the district do?
The district does, we have something called a model ordinance that we're encouraging all the cities in our county to do when they approve new housing, to have it meet certain standards of water use and to include, like if there was you could include double piping. I mean, I think only Apple and Google could probably afford it, but looking at things like that, and we have this model ordinance. I think every city, they're working on Monte Sereno. Not a whole lot of development in Monte Sereno, so it's not. I don't know how fast that one's moving, but I think all the other cities have adopted this as a program. We don't have any say when they approve like new houses in Morgan Hill, is a perfect example. But we are responsible to make sure they all have water when they build them. So we don't have land use authority, so we're here to make sure there's water. And so sometimes there's, you don't just cut it right on the dot, right? You're going to have a little extra water. This last couple of years, we've not had extra water. Like we're scrambling for every drop. We manage the aquifer, so when we drained Anderson, we made sure as much of it could go into the ground. And if it goes in a creek, even though it goes out to the bay, it does percolate in that creek. You know, there's no perk ponds next to Coyote Creek because the creek is a whole long perk channel.
Okay, I'd like to thank you very much for a very good talk.